This FedGov Today program is sponsored by Booz Allen. On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, the revolution ahead for the GovCloud.
Right now, as you can imagine, with the coding tools that are out there, you can literally become a citizen developer and create those same experiences that took years to build for someone in the past.
Fazal Muhammad of AWS on FedGov Today in just a moment. First, though, revisions to 4 sections of the Federal Acquisition Regulation are on the street now as part of the response to the executive order titled Restoring Common Sense to Federal Procurement. The Office of Federal Procurement Policy and the FAR Council have released updates to 4 parts already. Carla Smith-Jackson, the procurement leader at NASA and a member of the FAR Council, will tell you about what's already done and what's coming with the FAR rewrite. You can watch my conversation with her on the latest edition of FedGov Today TV. You can see it on demand anytime at fedgovtoday.com and on the FedGov Today YouTube channel. 19 leading practices across 3 management areas form the foundation of commercial cloud adoption, according to the Government Accountability Office. GAO says the federal government could learn a lot from commercial cloud users. Fazal Muhammad is Senior Manager for Solutions Architecture at AWS. Fazal, welcome. It's great to have you on the program. What's your sense of where agencies are this far into the cloud journey in the federal government? I know every agency is different, but broadly, where do you think the government is today relative, especially to the commercial sector in the cloud? Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. And Francis, for having me here. This is a very pertinent question. I've seen the rise of federal government modernizing digitization efforts throughout this 20 plus years that I've been involved with many agencies. So I've supported civilian, DoD, and national security agencies. So I've kind of seen a picking of all of them. So to your question, I feel like now it seems like a really good time where agencies are seeing and harnessing cloud to its potential, right? Especially on the civilian side, where there's a lot of citizen-facing services that they wanted to harness cloud, just like, as you said, comparing to the commercial side. People are already used to TikTok and Netflix and all of those easy-to-use services. Government is saying, okay, how do we provide services like those? So I'm seeing them embracing cloud for that, essentially, right, to provide citizen services. And also, on the other side, for mission-critical capabilities, now government sees that, okay, there is no point in going and investing a lot of money in procuring on-prem data centers. They're seeing the scale-out factor and the agility factor of you don't have to think through everything. You can start something quick, do a prototype, see if that's something that is viable, and then move on, right? So I feel like the government is embracing cloud a lot more than before. And these are the same tools that the commercial industries are using as well. So there is not a difference in the services in the cloud that's, the commercial is somehow taking an advantage differently than the government. So I feel like, yeah, there's still, as you said, pockets of government might be still not there yet, but I also see front runners on the government side harnessing things like what Netflix is already. So I see a broad spectrum, but in a good way.
When you refer to the front runners, you can name names if you want to or you don't have to, but what are they doing that allows them to get to the front of the pack in maximizing cloud to, you use the term, to its potential? I like that term. But what are those front runners doing that are giving them that status in your view?
Yeah, so I think they are definitely focused on reimagining what the mission needs are and how can I achieve those mission needs with the current technology, right? So these are essentially evangelists and people who are seeing the possibilities like Uber and Netflix becoming large-scale businesses and thriving. The mission needs of government are similar, right? So these are definitely front runners in some sense because they want to adopt those things for the government. And some of them have come from Silicon Valley and industry. And also some are like new grads who have come into the government with that type of an exposure. So they are definitely unwilling to take the older model as the only model. So they're breaking the mold. they're saying that, hey, as a organization, government can also be in lockstep with the commercial side.
You use the term reimagining mission needs, which I think is really important. What I hear that I think you're saying is that the discussion about rethinking business practices is as important, or maybe more important, than how one gets to the end goal of those business practices. Is that a fair read on my part?
Yeah, 100%. I think you definitely articulated much better than I had done. But if I were to restate it, exactly to your point, is the outcome is the most important thing, right? Now, if I were to solve, anything, I'm looking at AI assisted tools to give me that leg up, right? The earlier methodology was, either a waterfall or a certain way of doing things that wasn't breaking the mold enough. Now, with this new technology available and all the scaffolding that's been built, the outcome becomes more essential, and trying to get there with different means is what is propelling the use, as you said, using cloud as an enabler. That's not the destination. That's enabling you to get to the outcome that all these agencies want to achieve, right? Faster, better, cheaper with low risk.
The heavy lift, I think, for some agencies too, was that for a long time, the building blocks that cloud was going to be the platform for weren't evident. I think when Vivek Kundra started the cloud first idea, I want to say 2012, 2013, something like that. Maybe my memory's failing me. There was no robotic process automation yet. There was no artificial intelligence proliferation the way that there is now. Machine learning was not a thing, but those are all things that in hindsight now we see would have never been able to be enabled, if I'm using the most cumbersome phrase ever, had the cloud platform not already been laid in the federal government, right?
Yes, agreed. I think the building blocks, I'm sure he was a visionary for that time, right? So 2012 is a decade, but that seemed like way off in the generations that computer has evolved in that time. To your point, I think the building blocks were just compute, store, and networking at that time. And it has evolved into a lot of these undifferentiated heavy lift that people used to do. This is a term that Amazon uses a lot. And you will hear our CEO say that businesses are now riding on top of a lot of experience that the cloud has already provided, and optimizations that are available for you to get to that next level without all of the cumbersome work that you had to do before, right? So essentially think of this undifferentiated work was 60% of what you had done before, and now that's gone. So now your value added services are now pronounced, and you're able to iterate and innovate much, much more faster. And that's velocity is just skyrocketing, as you mentioned, the AI services, the robotic process automation services, where you're elevating the human labor to those value added services as opposed to the undifferentiated work.
My memory was failing me. I find, thanks to the power of the internet, that the federal cloud computing strategy from Vivek Kundra came out February of 2011. So we're actually now 14 years into the cloud computing processes that the federal government's undertaken. I know we don't have a crystal ball, and predicting is impossible because 5 years ago, nobody would have predicted the proliferation of AI tools and machine learning, as I mentioned a moment ago. But what do you see over the horizon that people in government agencies should be thinking about now that cloud is either the enabler for, or that cloud will provide them the capability to be able to undertake in the next whatever period of time you want to give me?
Yeah, I see this is definitely a game changer for, I know we talked about commercial counterparts, but government is not in the business of profit and loss, right? They're in the business for citizenship, right? They're making services that the government has need to be made available to the citizens easier, the interactions of citizens into the government easier, and also some of these mission critical services that the government provides need to be efficient that protects our freedom, right? Both from internal and external threats that we have. So across all of these dimensions, I feel like the current trajectory of technology and the cloud that is going to be having to be reimagined. This is why I keep coming to this term that we have a lot of legacy built inside the government that, we need to get that baggage out of our heads. Because right now, as you can imagine, with the coding tools that are out there, you can literally become a citizen developer and create those same experiences that took years to build for someone in the past. So now if we are free of that technical debt and free of the technical baggage, you can truly reimagine every part of the government and make that seamless and very agile to bring the most innovative. Again, as I said, technology is an enabler, but with that technology, the ultimate outcomes that what you were mentioning before from the government can be much, much sooner realized now. And it's promising to me that it's a wide open canvas for every facet of the government. And everybody in the government should be thinking in that mindset.
Do you have a sense of what agencies have to do, if anything, to be ready for that? Or is the groundwork that has been laid in the cloud for the federal government, the strategies and policies and all of that, sufficient, and the government just has to get after it at this point?
I'm sure there's work on the other fronts too, but from a technology standpoint, as you can imagine, like AWS brings the tech available as soon as we are in the forefront of making all of the services available for government to use. Right? We have GovCloud, which is very centric towards government-sensitive workloads that need to be in the U.S. soil, and we also have secret and top secret, as you can imagine. From the cloud provider standpoint, these tools and techniques are available for government to use. So I would say from a government standpoint, making procurement easy and also upskilling the workforce is essential. And a cultural change. Like I said, this thinking mindset that I can deliver this service without a lot of time elapsed is going to have to permeate into every single government facet. So it's always people, process, and technology, right? So technology is going to move, whether you want it or not. Process also can be improved with a lot of these, executive orders and all of the other advancements we are coming up with for better ways to do a process. But people have to change. Ultimately, all three have to coincide for an outcome. And I feel like from a people standpoint, clearing that mindset that you have technology available to you to deliver these things, and how do you change your culture to become a part of this bigger workforce, I think is going to be key.
Fazal, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks, Francis. Appreciate it.
You can read more about the cloud on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. The next FedGov Today podcast is coming tomorrow. You can listen to that show and every FedGov Today podcast anytime you want on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on demand at fedgovtoday.com. I'm Francis Rose. Thanks for listening.